Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We've got a sort of spoiler. There's no spoiler, really, because we don't say who the name of the person is, but Reality Steve, a few days ago, spoke about a new villain that'll be on Clayton's season of The Bachelor, starting January 2nd or 3rd, I believe, right after the New Year's 2022. Happy New Year. We're doing it, folks. Another year, another trip around the sun. We are ready to watch another person try to find love. I mean, at this rate, the success rate's so low, it's almost surprising if they do find somebody. We're like, oh, really? They made it last? Wow. What happened? You know what I mean? All right, so shocking villain arriving in 2022. We'll get into this story. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and like this video. So again, this video doesn't really include any spoilers per se. We don't know who the lady will be in question. I kind of like this. I kind of like this as a little teaser for the next season. As we know with Clayton, we haven't seen much of redeeming value, but nothing problematic either. He's a very safe guy on the show so far. You know, Michelle's season, that is. He won the Ultimate Viking Challenge on this last episode, and he's good at screaming out loud and eating fish heads. What else do you want from a guy? So we'll get into all that, but first, can you believe I've been compared to a stalker from the show You? Look, huh? Can't wear a baseball hat without looking like over the shoulder. Here it is, Dave Neal, nonstop videos, always coming after you. He's got the denim jacket too. If I just put the denim jacket on, we might have a case. Let me see if I can do that for you guys. I didn't know if it was going to be a denim jacket video, but hey, we've always got a denim jacket ready just in case you need it. Yeah, it's like Pins like, oh yeah, no, I can just go incognito. It's like with a jawline like that, you're going to get recognized regardless. All right, so let's get into this story here. I'm going to play this clip for you guys. We'll discuss after.
I won't name the girl, but I will say this.
Oh, I should say that there's going to be some language that is used in this video, so this is your fair warning. The language is the P word. We'll mention the P word. It exists. It's out there. Just so you guys know, if you're listening in front of your small children, why would you do that? But here we go.
I have said, I mentioned that there's a woman this season who gets drunk. I think it was last Friday's little fun fact of the day. Mm-hmm. That a woman this season gets drunk and doesn't end well for her. That woman calls Clayton a pussy.
So mature.
So I'd say that's fairly surprising. I don't think we've ever had that in the past. Mm-hmm. Everything else that happens is some iteration of something we've seen before. But that one, the drunk girl calling Clayton a pussy, pretty surprising, I would say.
Yeah, no, the only other thing we've had is you're the oldest bachelorette. So. Yeah,
no, I think anything that Yosef said to Claire, I think what this girl says to Clayton, and and that's the thing. I've heard she calls Clayton a pussy, but is it like after he's already sent her home and she's venting? Is mm-hmm. it while she's still a contestant on the show? Like, that's the details I don't know about. I was just told, like, oh yeah, she got drunk and called him a pussy. So I don't know what. Maybe she was already eliminated and on her way out the door. Mm-hmm. She called him a because he eliminated her, and he sent her home early. But yeah, the drunk girl gets sent home early. Like, it's not at a rose ceremony. Like, mm-hmm. sends her home before that because she's too drunk. So, and called him a pussy, I guess.
Well, I mean, hey, is she right or wrong? We'll have to see. So that's the big, and now like some people go, oh, Dave, is this even worth making a story about? Hey, it's Friday. Don't be I'm kidding. I'm not. Well, I wouldn't call you that. So, we'll discuss in a minute the term, where it comes from, the origins, or at least the theories as to where the term comes from. I'm not going to say it, mainly out of respect to my YouTube channel, not wanting to get demonetized. That's pretty much it. There's certain words they don't like when you say, so we won't do it. So here, Clayton was spotted. This photo was posted yesterday. I said he looks like a villain in a Bond movie. Doesn't he look like he has some sort of code to the nuclear weapon? He's like, I don't want to tell you this, but I will, that, or like a Despicable Me, the villain there, because he's got like little legs and big shoulders. But that's, hey, men, we skip leg day. You can't do buys every day, but you can try. All right, so let's read some of your comments. This isn't, okay, go back here. This isn't Clayton, it's Luther from the Umbrella Academy. Look at those shoulders. All jokes aside, I can't help but see the resemblance every time Clayton is on screen. Okay, another Umbrella Academy. So let's go to this Umbrella Academy link and see if it's actually a good comparison, because I'm not really sure what they're talking about here. But it's always fun when we think someone looks like someone else. I mean, I don't know why it's kind of sophomoric, but there, no one. Luther from the Umbrella Academy. Oh, the Umbrella Academy. So it's a really strong guy. I get it. He looks like the really strong guy that's got the big, because he's huge. He's just a giant man. That's what human growth hormone will do to you. I'm not saying he's on it, but I'm saying human growth hormone will make your body pretty big. And it's good for your jaw, too. If you have a strong jawline, you were either born that way, or it's Maybelline, or it's HGH. So people are like, wow, he's actually looking pretty good. They were in Iceland. Guess he needed to explore his inner Viking. So not much of a P word here, if you ask me. So let's get into that story. Where does the P word come from? And should feminists really use it? Now, listen, I'm not here to tell anyone what to do or say. Use whatever words you want. That's the freedoms that you have. But let's read up on it. It's a hot word right now. P is in vogue. P is vajazzled in lights. From Tumblr to CNN, it's clear that we're in the middle of a bit of a P renaissance, a reclamation of the word that arguably started around the time a certain infamous Access Hollywood tape was leaked. They grab her by the P word tape. And many women were having none of that. Ever since the Women's March of January 21, P word has popped up on t-shirts, signs, and Instagram feeds all over America. Women are newly empowered to use the word, formerly considered vulgar, proudly. We talk about our P's all the time in a variety of different settings with lots of different people. Once there's a decision to take it back, that's what becomes relevant, not how it got to be degraded or pejorized. Wow. It's Friday. Leave me alone. So this professor of linguistics at York University, one of my favorite universities, York University, says, once there's a decision to take it back, that's what becomes relevant. So it's not how it used to be said, but it's how you're using it now. But to really reclaim a word that was typically used to dismiss female anatomy, it's important to understand its history. Where does it come from and why do we use it? Personally, I always assumed we described vaginas as P's because they do, in my honest opinion, look somewhat like cats, specifically Dr. Evil's bald pussycat, that's wild. Turns out other slang terms for vaginas date back to as far as 1250. When the first recorded use of the C word appeared. It was likely, and this is so funny, it's like you can say bloody you can call something bloody in the US, but that's like a huge swear word in England. And then in England, they sling the C word around. They sling it around. And over here, that's like a hard hitting word. A province also, okay, let's go back here. Likely, the C word was likely an English street word that came from the very unfortunately named Gropekant Lane, a province once known for its sex workers. While the Old Norse root of the word is somewhat fuzzy, and the person who directly deserves credit for coining the C word is unknown, it's just one example of how euphemisms for genitalia are no new thing. But the origin of the word, the P word, is pretty hotly debated. One theory suggests that it originally came from the Old Norse word puss, which means pocket pouch, which sounds legit. Others have suggested that the word comes from pusillanimous, which means cowardly. That theory also holds water, though perhaps not as well as a pocket pouch, considering that when the P word popped up in regular dialogue around the 16th century, it didn't have a sexual connotation at all. In fact, it was used as a term of endearment to describe women in general and didn't actually get sexual until the 19th century. I think the idea is that, words can be demeaning and used to describe something, and it's not always, there's always a separate meaning to it. Like growing up, people would call things gay, and they didn't mean that's homosexual. They would mean like lesser than, weak. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that word is right. It just means people will misuse words that have an actual meaning, and then it'll turn into a different meaning. So how does a term derived from something as benign as in-clothing storage become one of the most controversial words in the English language? Through porn, of course. As porn films permeated society, so did the P word, this time deployed as a pretty word used by men in porn to describe female genitalia. Language is constantly evolving, so let's just go through this here. The idea being, when women say it as an insult, should they? And again, like I said, I don't know. We're just discussing this because we're making a video about it. Because a woman calls Clayton the P word. It's often claimed that the P word, referring to someone who is a coward, is misogynist, since it implies that women are inherently less brave than men. I guess that could be it. I never thought of it that way. And who knows? Maybe that's part of it. I wouldn't use brave as the term. But there's at least two. I guess, if someone's a coward, then they could be called the P word. I guess that makes sense. I just never thought of it that way. They include the different body parts that are used as insults. I could say, Claire says, I could say it's internalized sexism. Women agreeing that our body parts should be symbols of weakness and cowardice. But I think it's a little simpler than that. Most people use language pretty automatically without taking time to examine the deeper implications of their word choice. When you learn that the P word is an insult that means weak or cowardly, and you want to call someone weak or cowardly, you'll probably reach for the insult the P word. This is why it's so difficult to get people to stop using the F word to mean a contemptible man, even if they have no ill will toward gay men. It's why it's difficult to get unhomophobic people to stop using gay to mean disappointing or inferior. Even if the implications are explained to us, we still reach automatically for the words we know, particularly when we're angry. So that's very interesting. We'll end it on that, but it's interesting that when you think of the sort of the limbic system, that reptilian response, that fight or flight mode, it's not necessarily logical, right? You could look at Kramer from Seinfeld dropping the N-word a bunch of times when he was in a tirade at the Laugh Factory here in West Hollywood. Now, of course, we're not saying any of this to make excuses for it, but it's almost like people resort back to the words that they know. And again, that's problematic in and of itself. If you're so casually able to say the N-word or other words, that's problematic. But what people should probably look at is the actual act of what you say off the tip of your tongue. And if there are a bunch of slang words that would be deemed inappropriate in today's world, even though if you learned them in the 80s or the 90s or whenever, it takes some time to relearn that. I look at that when I talk about, trigger warning, to talk about suicide. The word we all grew up with was when someone say attempted suicide or committed suicide. Now we've learned that committed is a word that's used mainly to villainize people. If someone committed an act, they are committing a crime like that, versus someone who took their own life or died by suicide. So the linguistic ideas of what words mean, that's like that next level way of thinking where, I don't like the term woke because I feel like people have used that as a political divide, but it's about understanding what you say could possibly hurt someone else, but at the same time, also understanding that you shouldn't necessarily worry so much. Like the other day I called, I was saying to my fiance, I said, "Oh, Tasha, you look so skinny." Not so skinny. I said, "You look skinny," because she had a tank top on and her arms looked nice. And someone in the comment section said, "Hey, saying your fiance looks skinny can trigger people that have eating disorders." And at some point, and then they commented, "Hey, look, that's my fight to worry about if someone has an eating disorder, to worry about words that trigger that eating disorder." And at some point, we have to be careful with words we say, but also in the end, we are responsible for how we react to life, even triggers. We're responsible in society because we can't control other crazy drivers, the people at the DMV, the cashier. We can't control all of life, so we have to be responsible for how we react to things. But at the same time, I think it takes two to tango. It's good to acknowledge words that are either problematic or maybe used wrongly, and try to do better and try to remember how to say things that are easier for the whole mass to understand exactly your point. And on the other hand, it's also our responsibility to know that if we are triggered by a certain word, that's a chance for us to get help. Why is that word triggering us? Why is someone else's speech triggering us? It doesn't mean that that's your fault. It just means it's up to each of us to kind of control and own why we feel a certain way about things. I'm triggered all the time about things. Geez, we're just looking to buy tickets to Harry Potter World, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to cost $900 for two people. This is wild. This is wild to me. And I was like getting heated. Oh my gosh. And I need to remember hey, it's not like you spend that every day to go somewhere. If you're going to a certain place, it's going to cost, it is what it is. At the end of the day, what can you do about it? Right. My point being, it's good to analyze these conversations, these words, and it'll be interesting to see what the heck goes down on Clayton's season. Was he called the P word because of something he was doing, or was she saying it because she was rejecting him and she wanted to cut him, emasculate him in a certain way? We'll have to see how it all plays out. It's Friday, folks. Oh, I wanted to tell you, call the voicemail line 401-213-9828. for my Thanksgiving video. I'm going to be making it later today. Leave a voicemail and tell me what you're thankful for this Thanksgiving, and I'll play all of your videos on Thanksgiving. I'm sorry, all of your audio voicemails. All right, thanks so much, guys. We'll see you in a little bit. Bye now.